5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have liftoff.
Welcome once again to Planet Normal, the Telegraph podcast with Alison Pearson.
Hello.
And me, Liam Halligan. And welcome in particular because this is a special edition of Planet Normal being recorded on Sunday the 19th of October at the brilliant Battle of Ideas Festival in central London. Thank you for joining us here on our Sanctuary of Sweet Reason, our flying refuge of reasoned views every week. And this is our 275th episode. Co-pilot Pearson and I chat about the news in our own way. Often, as Planet Normal regulars will know, our conversations are orthogonal to the orthodoxy. But it's our listeners and our guests who make Planet Normal. We read out lots of emails, we speak to well-informed, brilliant people, and we have two fabulous guests for you this week in this specially extended edition of Planet Normal.
Now, dear listeners, as you all know, yesterday marked the end of National Hate Crime Awareness Week. It's a good job it's over. Most weeks I report co-pilot Halligan for causing me alarm and distress, but still no help from the police. But if this was still National Hate Crime Awareness Week, we'd all be at risk of arrest because here at the Battle of Ideas, and particularly on Planet Normal, we are a bolshy lot daring to have views. Views, I know, controversial. Not all of us have the same views, of course, and that is the point of this amazing event convened by the beautiful, wonderful Baroness Claire Fox. And it's the joy of it all, having different views. As so many of you know, so much of our political and media class don't like people who have views or have the wrong sort of views. That is views that would see you and I banished from Ed Miliband or Ed Davies' Christmas card list. If Christmas itself isn't a hate crime these days.
Someone who knows all about hate crimes, of course, and those ghastly non-crime hate incidents is you, co-pilot, because it will soon be a year since you had your velvet-lined collar felt at your own front door in leafy North Essex by Her Majesty's Boys in Blue for a tweet long since deleted. It's a famous case. It provoked national and international attention. We'll talk about how you feel a year on from that incident. We still know dozens of NCHIs are being registered and investigated. It's absolutely nuts. It's a colossal waste of time and money. We'll talk about Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's admission the UK's lost control of its borders. We'll talk about the China spy scandal, Beijing limiting exports of vital rare earth elements in order to try and put pressure on Donald Trump in the trade negotiations. I'm just back from Central Asia. I did a train tour there with my eldest daughter, Ailish, who's very interested in the region. It really came home to me the extent of China's grip on what used to be Russia's backyard. That was brought home to me. I've written about it in my Telegraph column today, The Economic Agenda.
We have got two brilliant guests for you. Lord Morris Glasman, who will be well known to Battle of Ideas attendees, the architect of Blue Labour, hugely influential strand of thinking that rejects Labour's social progressivism, arguing that Labour's strategy to win over the progressive middle classes made the party technocratic and isolated from, and has then alienated the party's traditional working class supporters. I'm going to be asking Morris about Wales in particular. We're also going to be joined by Tracy Edwards, a British sporting legend. Tracy, hooray! Tracy's a formidable woman who, in her early 20s, decided she was going to skipper the world's first all-female crew to sail around the world, as you do when you're 23. The exploits of Tracy and her crew in the Whitbread round-the-world yacht race in 1989 are the subject of the BAFTA-nominated documentary Maiden. That was their name of their 58-foot boat. It reduced even co-pilot Halligan was in tears.
Quivering wreck. A quivering wreck. But before we do all that, Alison, let's have our regular chat that we have at the top of every Planet Normal. There's so much to discuss. There's those non-crime hate incidents. This, of course, is a specially extended edition of Planet Normal. We'll have time to fit it in. We can talk about borders, China, Rachel Reeves' upcoming budget. I'm often asked for my advice. I have a 2-word news you can use, personal finance, conclusion of Rachel Reeves' budget: run away. And blimey, we're going to be talking, aren't we? Let's talk about this from the top. What citizens of Planet Normal are really talking about, what people are talking about in the pubs, in the clubs, in the supermarkets, and that is the cost of living. Yeah. Rocketed back up over the last couple of weeks to the top of polling of what voters are really, really concerned about. Immigration's been at the top in recent months, but once again, the cost of living has taken over.
Yeah, and I think that I started a bit of a thread on Twitter about saying, that, your normal shopping basket in a week now seems like your Christmas shop, doesn't it? And it's not just going up by a bit a week, it's going up by, like suddenly 30, 40, 50 pounds. And I've got a bit of a thread. We've got a bit of a theme going with how much is a packet of mints. I mean, mints used to be, a cheap family staple, didn't it? And
people, bit of spag bowl.
And Liam and I, we laugh a lot, and obviously there's a lot to try and find some fun in. But I think we are now really facing a lot of normal families not being able to afford properly to feed their children. And I think this is because the British people have been grotesquely misled about energy prices. This government, and indeed the preceding government, pursued net zero policies, and on our energy bills are subsidies that are going. So the green grifters, who are getting hundreds of millions of British taxpayers' money, and of course all the knock-on effect on food prices.
Energy prices are in everything. There's a kind of, again, my head's full of what I was talking to many people about in Central Asia, which is, of course, a big oil-producing region. We're so often told in the editorial columns of the posh papers that oil doesn't matter anymore, gas doesn't matter anymore, not least because we're now a net oil importer massively, of course. But it really does matter. When the Yom Kippur War happened in 1973, the price of oil quadrupled. Many of you in the audience are nodding in agreement. It was such a massive thing. America actually made energy exports illegal after that. It had such a massive impact on the Western world that the kind of massive gas-guzzling cars that we grew up watching on Starsky and Hutch and the Dukes of Hazzard, they were replaced by Japanese imported compact cars because oil was so important. It was the moment when the global south, if you like, in this case the Arab world and OPEC, slapped the West in the face, the West being massively powerful, of course, in the aftermath of the Second World War. And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Back then, when everybody knew how important oil was to the world, we used 50 million barrels of oil a day. But now oil doesn't matter, apparently. So why are we using 110 million barrels of oil a day now? Why is that? Oil really, really, really matters. Hydrocarbons really, really, really matter. That doesn't mean we should only use hydrocarbons. And we've done well in this country to move away from hydrocarbons, diluting them. But there's certainly certain things only hydrocarbons can do, like plastics and petrochemicals, all kinds of pharmaceuticals. They're really, really important. And, I wish Ed Miliband would understand that even the Climate Change Commission, ladies and gentlemen, which is the government's kind of legally empowered in-house green conscience, staffed by a bunch of doom goblin worshippers, they should understand that even the Climate Change Commission acknowledges, in massively understated assumptions about the future, that even if we hit our net zero targets by 2050, which involves all kinds of technologies being invented that haven't yet been invented, we will still be using oil and gas for between 30 and 40% of our energy. So why not use our own oil and gas? Why import LNG from America? Because the carbon footprint of imported LNG, once you converted the gas to liquid and then liquid back into the gas and stuck it in a ship that burns diesel and has to go 3,500 miles across the ocean, is 5 times bigger than if we just use our own oil and gas. And by the way, this is a real difficult thing for the Labour Party, and Morris Glasman knows all about this. You've got Gary Smith, who's a really smart guy. He happens to run the 3rd biggest union in the world, the GMB, and he absolutely hates net zero. And he knows so many traditional Labour voters hate net zero because it's destroying our energy complex. It's destroying our manufacturing.
I'm still shattered by my discovery. You know, Liam's got me delving into economic and energy facts, data. Who knew? Who knew a Cambridge English graduate would soon be banding around the various...
O-level maths failure.
Low blow.
But she got it in the end.
We've got a certain round-the-world yachtsman, one of our most brilliant women, who didn't get any bloody O-levels. Thank you. Thank you. Tracy learnt to navigate around the world with a pencil and a sextant, so I'm perfectly capable. I think actually, Liam, if we think about it, that so much to do now with the current government is across the path from free speech to energy to Islamism and the appeasement thereof is to do with ideology constantly getting in the way of common sense.
The French have it right, and I don't often say that, but they do, because, you know, where in Western Europe is inflation the lowest? It's in France, despite their massive public spending, despite their massive taxation issues, which would ordinarily push up inflation and push up government borrowing costs. But inflation in France is low because they have nuclear energy. You know, this country invented civilian nuclear energy. Our civilian nuclear industry was created by our extremely good cone-headed scientific community, and they built power stations that were largely built, by the way, with Irish labour, and I say that proudly. And yet only six of our nuclear fleet, our domestic nuclear power stations that are still up and running, and many of them are very decrepit, they're basically now owned, maintained and run by the French government, by EDF, which is a state-owned organisation. That's completely nuts. That's completely nuts. So when you're wondering why food is so expensive, when you're wondering about the price of mince, when you hear about the health of children now being jeopardised because it is becoming so expensive to feed children properly and many people are suffering, a lot of it has to do, ladies and gentlemen, with the price of energy. But Alison, I wanted to ask you, I mean, so Alison and I live near each other, though not in the biblical sense. Her family followed my family to Saffron Walden. That's not quite true.
He thinks I'm a stalker.
I say it's true. I say it's true. So we live within a couple of hundred metres of each other. And when that happened to you, that Remembrance Sunday morning in Saffron Walden, and Saffron Walden is a beautiful place. We're very lucky to live there. Alison is a kind of local celeb, and because I wasn't available. No, I was available.
Tell the story about me going into the pub for the first time. What did they say?
Oh, yeah. So when Alison moved to Saffron Walden with her fantastic husband, who I really enjoy hanging out with, Anthony Lane, who's an absolutely brilliant writer on The New Yorker, they live very near the King's Arms in Saffron Walden. And when she walked into Saffron Walden, it was like, here's Renée Zellweger.
Should have gone to Specsavers. Actually, we're surrounded by some late middle-aged people who don't see very well. So
we are some late middle-aged people who don't see.
We are some middle-aged people who don't see very well.
But when that happened to you, that hit you really, really hard. You were really, really shocked to your core. The fact that police officers turned up in uniform on your doorstep, curtains twitching. You are a hugely respected national newspaper columnist. And it's inevitable when you live in a small town and you're Alison Pearson. People are going to know you. People are going to come up to you. She does her shopping in sunglasses these days. But I know you felt that very, very strongly. And some absolute morons across the rest of the press attacked you and made fun of you on national broadcast channels, state-funded channels, saying, oh, Alison Pearson, as if she's scared. Bugger off. She was really scared. And she was really, really shaken to the core. And she's a very powerful, exquisitely articulate national newspaper columnist with a platform. And fair play to the Telegraph. They swung into action to get behind you and to publicise what had happened. And that's why you had people across the world really concerned about what had happened to this respected national newspaper columnist.
Most regular Planet Normal listeners will know that the police did come, I thought it was because we have a parade past our house on Remembrance Sunday, and with the local, the scouts and the Cubs and the guides, and so I thought they were coming to ask us to move the car. And the guy started talking about this social media post, and I was just getting dressed, so I didn't quite know what was going on. And then it gradually dawned on me what he was saying. And so I said, which was the offensive tweet? And the young police officer said, "Oh, I'm not allowed to tell you that, madam." And then I said, who is my accuser? And he said, we're not allowed to tell you that either, but it's not the accuser. It's the victim. The victim. I've never had a victim before, so it was interesting.
But you were meant to be going to give the reading in the church. I didn't even get to say that. I was so busy making fun of you. But that's the story. You were literally getting yourself ready. You are quite a religious person. I think you wear that lightly.
Well,
and it meant a great deal to you.
Means,
it meant a great deal to you.
Remembrance Sunday, I think, should mean and does mean a great deal to all of us, doesn't it? It's whatever religion or none. And in fact, although I was shocked, I think because it was Remembrance Sunday, I was also angry. And seeing these two young coppers there, I thought they were quite clueless. They didn't seem to really know what it was that they were there for. And I said, it was like the, Henry V Battle of Agincourt Eve speech, basically, because I said, do you know what it is we commemorate today? I said hundreds of thousands of young men, British men your age, gave their lives so we would be free from tyranny. What would they think of you turning up to a journalist's door over basically nothing, or nothing you can tell me about? You know what, although it was upsetting and I would go to sleep worrying about it and wake up worrying about it, and Essex Police had the opportunity to just say, look, sorry, we overreacted, instead of which they doubled down and hilariously summoned Gold Command, which is... Gold Command is for when you've got a major terrorist incident. Now Liam will tell you...
She was hoping Aunt Middleton would abseil into her bedroom.
Liam can tell you, I can get a bit kind of gung-ho, but Gold Command was a bit much. But you know what I am grateful for now, with a year's hindsight? I'm still got an ongoing legal case against Essex Police and against the Police and Crime Commissioner, an alleged Conservative, one of the many alleged Conservatives. And Mr. Hurst went on LBC radio during the live, while the case was still live, and he said that her crimes, this is me, her crimes carry a prison sentence of up to 7 years, right? So I hadn't committed any crimes, as Mr. Hurst is about to find out quite expensively, I think. But I think, Liam, you know what? I am quite grateful because I was, as you say, I was able... I'd written about free speech before. I'd done some fundraising for the Free Speech Union and Toby Young, and was very, very proud to do so. But there's nothing to bring it home to you what's happening to, thousands of our fellow citizens, like having this Kafkaesque thing descend on you yourself. And I have learned a huge amount about the police in the past 12 months, partly because amazing police, regular officers, concerned men and women are coming forward to tell me about the absurdities that they have to deal with. And there was a lovely woman who'd taken early retirement from a senior post, and she said the final straw was when a woman rang up and said she wanted to report a hate crime because a lady had taken the last bunch of daffodils in the supermarket. And this lady, Dawn, said to her, how is that hate crime? And the lady replied, well, she was a white woman and I wanted the daffodils. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is literally, once you have a system where you can invite anybody to have a grievance and then have a legal means of attacking the person who's pissed you off, it just opens the door to so much for harmony and racial harmony. This is profoundly divisive. But the point I wanted to make today, Liam, is the police that many of us grew up thinking policed without fear or favour, that just isn't the case, right? They see themselves as ushering in a progressive utopia, and it's all about our values. Now, our values, I would suggest their values don't really overlap with the values of the majority of British people. So one senior police officer said to me that Jews are basically seen as white supremacists. So that will give you an idea of why we're seeing two-tier justice on our streets with the policing of these extremely aggressive marches and the very, very disturbing case this week of the Maccabi Tel Aviv fans basically told that they won't be welcome at Aston Villa in Birmingham because, well, let's be honest. Should we be honest about this, Liam? This has got nothing to do with safety. This has got to do with the fact that Birmingham West Midlands Police cannot guarantee the safety of Jews because a lot of very, very threatening Islamist-adjacent men in Birmingham want to do them harm, right? Let me read you this remark from one of my senior police sources. He says, the concept of consulting so-called community leaders and independent advisory groups was supposed to mean fairness and transparency. In fact, it has ended up meaning appeasing the loudest, most threatening voices. So that's what's happening, and we can see that as well in the rape gangs, which the government has been so reluctant to touch because police, as we know from Dame Louise Casey's excellent report, were too worried about community sensitivities to wade in and protect tens of thousands of white working class girls from industrial scale sexual abuse. So well done them. So I think the police have fallen in my lifetime to the reputation which used to be high. My mum would always say, call a policeman, always go over to a policeman. If a panda car goes by me now, I feel frank dislike, right? Me, I'm a Daily Telegraph columnist. What the hell has happened? And I imagine lots of us feel that we no longer trust these people, and I'm really hoping that we are going to see the College of Policing, which is a nest of wokeness, closed down, okay? And just finally, every day we hope the ceasefire in Gaza would see a diminution of the anti-Semitism. It seems to get worse by the day. We've just seen, the Telegraph's just had a report of a Jewish lawyer was observing the pro-Palestine march in August. He was arrested for apparently the police weren't happy he was wearing a Star of David, his religious insignia, because it might antagonize people. Again, complete inversion of the moral order. It's not for the police to blame the person who is going about their lawful, rightful business because he might antagonize someone who might attack him. And I just want to finish this section by saying that my tweet, they've never really acknowledged which tweet it was that offended an anonymous person. But we think it was a tweet where I called out the police snuggling up in a picture to what I called the Jew haters. Now, I got the police force wrong. I thought it was the Metropolitan Police. In fact, it seemed to have been Greater Manchester Police, prophetically enough, where we've just seen the heinous attack on the synagogue in Manchester. The men in that picture that I retweeted belong to a Pakistani group that doesn't believe in the existence of Israel. So I stand by the description of Jew haters. So I had a police visit for that tweet, which I'm told didn't come anywhere near the threshold for a criminal investigation. But a Jewish woman, Planet Normal listener, wrote to me. She had written to Essex Police around that same time, just after October the 7th massacre, and drawn attention. Anyway, this guy had basically tweeted, why shouldn't we attack Jewish schools, or, that kind of order of horrible thing. And the Jewish lady complained to Essex Police and got a reply saying, we understand you're upset, madam, but he tweeted that in the heat of the moment. So you can call on Jewish schools to be attacked if you're on the pro-Jew hater side of the argument. If you're me, who doesn't like the Jew haters and thinks they don't have any place in our society, get a visit from the police. So, sorry, that's a long way of saying where we are, but that's where we are.
I think we should say, because we are, fair-minded people and we're journalists, we should say that obviously the police would reject a lot of Alison's description of what happened. I think everybody in the room and who listens to this will feel her anger at what happened to her. And I think that anger...
More to people who can't defend themselves,
Indeed.
Liam.
And I was going to say exactly that. As somebody who knows her very well, obviously we talk more not on Planet Normal than on Planet Normal, though the ratio is sort of one-to-one, isn't it? Her motivation is that she is Alison Pearson, but most other people aren't Alison Pearson and don't have the platform that she has carved out for herself by a lot of hard work, starting out on newspapers, selling advertising, by the way. There was no fast-track silver spoon route for her.
Actually, by the way, I said to Liam that, you always get accused of various things, and it's amused me as I've tried to, in this very, very dark period since the 7th of October, tried to stand by British Jews who I think have needed our support. And I always get you and your Zionist paymasters, and I always say to Liam, where's the cheque? Where's the cheque? But no Zionist paymasters writing large cheques, unfortunately.
I'd also say, as well as that the police would deny what you've said, Alison, we have to say that. I'd also say, as a citizen of the country, a lot of people talk to me in the street and so on. A lot of the rank and file, they're rolling their eyes at this stuff, but they just have to do it because they've got families, they've got mortgages, they've got kids, they've got to support. A lot of rank and file police, I think, the vast majority of rank and file police are decent people trying to do a really difficult job. And nothing that we say on Planet Normal is designed to have a go at them. I think a lot of them are mystified at what's happening. It's just because we seem to have at the top of the police force now lots of sort of snooty graduates who've never been on the front line, who've never done an arrest. They're just there because they're brainy and well-connected and they like a nice big fat public sector pay check and pension for the rest of their lives. And we should rid the top of the police of these kind of people. The top of the police should be populated by the kind of men and women we all know, the kind of men and women that lots of us grew up with. Savvy, street smart, patriotic, canny people who understand human nature and aren't trying to police, via PowerPoint, frankly. So look, often on Planet Normal, we say we're going to talk about various things, but we never get...
Can I say one thing before? Just one thing. I forgot to say, actually, this is good, not just about Planet Normal, about all the people, the Telegraph and so on, who've been campaigning on this issue, that you'll have noticed in the last 2 or 3 months, lots of the chief constables are starting to say, maybe these non-crime hate incidents aren't such a brilliant idea. So it just shows, everyone here, if we make noise, if we refuse to go along with it, if we say this is against liberty, this is against the traditions of British fair play, we're not having it, eventually I think we are going to see the end of them. So...
Just before we bring on our first guest, who seems particularly apposite in light of what you just said, Alison, and he's got to get off to Spurs quite quickly, so he's got to go. Not to stereotype him in any way. What did you say, Baron Glasman? But just to say, as journalists, look, you have to constantly fight the blob. Right? Look at this investigation into the child rape gangs. The government, kicking and screaming, said it would do a national inquiry after lots of journalists endured the wrath of the great and the good and the bien-pensant to push for that. Where is it? Rupert Lowe, you've got to hand it to him. It's done great work pressuring Jess Phillips. Where is that national inquiry, Jess Phillips? Or are you now such a ministerial animal that you're going to push that beyond the next election? You need to do that inquiry. And same with the non-crime hate incidents. Why are they still happening? Yep. It's not good enough. We have to keep pushing and pushing. Now, Morris Glasman, Baron Glasman, was born in 1961, which happened to be the year that Spurs won the first double of modern times. And, of course, he is a big Spurs fan. He was born to a proud Jewish family in Walthamstow with very deep Labour roots. His father was a toy manufacturer. His mother hailed from a poor family in Stamford Hill. Morris was precocious. He won a place at Cambridge, as young, bright, working-class people did in their many, many, many numbers back in the day, particularly from East London. He read history. He went on to gain a PhD in Florence. He's a jazz trumpeter.
Wow.
And he went on to become a lecturer in political theory at London Metropolitan University. In 2009, Morris was heavily involved in the founding and developing of Blue Labour, the movement blending conservative socialism with faith, family, patriotism and community action. He's been a Labour peer in the House of Lords since 2011, and in 2025, just to make sure he doesn't fit into any box at all, which is I know how he likes it, Morris was the only member of his party to be invited to and who attended Donald Trump's presidential inauguration. Maurice Glasman. Do you want to ask him first?
Yes.
Hello, hello.
Do you want to go?
No, you go.
Maurice, it's great to have you with us. The first thing I want to ask you, because I think many people wonder it, when did you last talk to Keir Starmer?
You don't talk to Keir Starmer. He's Arsenal, remember. So, I'm a very tolerant person, but there's certain things. It happens to be true. So, we bump into each other. It's no secret that I'm a long-standing friend of Morgan McSweeney.
You are?
I mean, we worked together against the BNP in Dagenham 2008. They had 12 seats.
Who, of course, is Starmer's still Chief of Staff in Downing Street. Morgan McSweeney.
And, everybody, you've got to forgive me, but I'm faithful to the tradition of Labour, and I'm not going to quit that.
And how do you think it's going?
Well, you're called Planet Normal. I've noticed that Alison's already said pissed off, so excuse me, everybody. I'm going to swear. The planet they live on is called Planet okay? And so forgive me.
I think that's the headline.
You're so cruel, and Planet is a place where men and women, up is down, right is wrong. It's a complete mirror image of goodness and reality. So, I said it yesterday, and I will say it again today. Just everybody, the last thing you want to hear when you go to the doctor, right? It's progressive. So, you laugh, but it's true. And the thing about being progressive is that it kills you. It's a disease. Right is wrong. It addles your brain. You don't understand what you're seeing right in front of your eyes. Remember Darren Jones saying, all those women and children on the boats? What's he talking about? What is in his head? But they believe it. This is the important thing. So you've got to have some, Alison, compassion and mercy. But there's also a saying in Yiddish, where I talked about yesterday, my dad taught me, he used to say that a delusion is worse than an illness. It really ruins your head. And then the progressive palsy does your head, and then it does your body, and then you can't act. This is the thing. So the grooming gangs is a classic example. So just to say, and also I said this yesterday, I want, I'm a quite Stalinist wing. I want show trials of the grooming gangs. I want it live on television.
Here. Absolutely.
Please don't clap. I'm in Labour. I'm not used to it. Makes me feel, Alison, like a persecuted Jew. What, you clapping? Oh, you want to kill me. So the thing about that is that we've got to understand what the new era is about, and thank God we're in this new era. I really got confirmed when I went to the Trump inauguration. People, working class people, were throwing their lanyards into the bin, and they were saying, free at last, free at last, thank God Almighty, free at last. And this was going on in the rallies. We've got to understand my class enemy are the lanyard class, the people who want to control our thoughts, make us walk around with our face on our own chest. I know who I am. Yeah. I don't need my photo on me to confirm my existence. But that's what they're like. Compliance is there. We've got to compliance.
Process.
Yeah, of course.
Process.
Yeah, this is all part of Planet process before action. Right?
Yeah,
That's key. Choice before tradition.
Yeah.
Human rights before country. It's all that. It's very deep. And so we're entering a new era. I think the initiation of it was our beloved country voting for Brexit. I think that was the beginning of the tremble, where it started. I thought in the middle of that campaign that they were going to take a legal action to stop it because it was a violation of people's human rights. I want to live in France and you're stopping me. And it hurts my feelings. This is the point. You can't hurt, you can hurt our feelings, but you can't hurt their feelings because they're protected bourgeoisie. It's all going on. So one of the eras of the new era is that the new era is an era also, it's a very volatile, democratic era. It's an era of faith. And we see Islamism and the power of Islamism. That's an aspect of the new era. We see Tommy Robinson, Christ is King, walking under the cross. That's an aspect of the new era. What's astonishing to me is the absence of the voice of the Church of England. I saw what happened in Canterbury Cathedral, and I thought it was a suicide. T.S. Eliot wrote Murder in the Cathedral about the killing of Thomas of Becket. And the thing about that is that the blood was on the king's hands. He ordered that. But if T.S. Eliot would lie, I'd urge him, I'd say, Thomas, write suicide in the cathedral. The church of that graffiti art was a suicide note. It was saying, we don't want to take any responsibility for our national position. It's an astonishingly big deal. So I would trust the Catholic Church more with our holy sites. And let's face it, Canterbury Cathedral, for the vast majority of its existence, was a Catholic cathedral. I mean, how are we going to protect our holy sites? So this is the very dramatic, and thank God, it's a very brilliantly political time. So I think Babylon is falling. I do.
Morris, I was born and brought up in South Wales. Everyone we knew was Labour, literally, family, friends. My grandfather was a miner and so on. They said in Llanelli that if you put a red rosette on a donkey, the donkey would win the seat.
It would have been a better outcome.
I'll pass on your best wishes to Dame Naya, who currently is the Labour MP for Llanelli. So in May, Morris, we are perhaps looking potentially now at a reform route in South Wales. What will that mean to Labour that's held dominance for well over a century?
Well, reality is coming our way. And it's unavoidable. And don't imagine that there aren't good and intelligent people in Labour who understand entirely what's going on. And look, we've already lost one great party. The Conservative Party are dead. They said that they'd 2019, does anybody remember that? Landslide victory for the Conservatives, get Brexit done, take back control. Do you remember levelling up? New economic model. The opposite, right? And they are unforgiven. I liken them, Liam, to ghosts, Conservative. They speak to us, but we cannot hear. They live amongst us, but we cannot see them. They're literally the living dead. And yes, let's revive ourselves. Fiscal responsibility, that's going to resurrect the dead. They've got no idea, and it was actually initiated by Thatcher, who had an ideology where nothing was sacred. Not our monarchy, not our parliament, not our army. Everything was cost efficiency. I like to joke, about conservative theology, because some of them say they're religious. So the first line of the Bible is, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And then I say, but do you think he made a design mistake and should have privatised it first? And they go, yeah, I do, yeah. So they've got no understanding that human beings and our natural environment are a sacred inheritance that is for us to nurture. I'm completely with you on the energy. So I make an opposition between environment and nature. I love nature. I want clean water, I want clean air, and all of that. Sorry, Alison, I'm getting distracted about Wales. Wales was the cradle of the Labour movement.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just the choirs, the work which were amazing. It was also the burial societies, the maternity care, the Welsh working class, particularly the miners led it, but the steel workers too. They cared for each other. They built an entire culture of mutuality that was, in fact, quite a beautiful manifestation of our nation. And that's what I mean with Thatcher, the deindustrialisation, absolutely. Who cared for them? No one cared for them. Abandoned. And so this is what happened, is that the Labour movement, as a glory, I mean, my hero is utterly Ernest Bevin. You know, I want a bomb, I want a bloody big bomb, and I want the Union Jack on it. That's my attitude to virtually everything. Whatever it is, I want the Union Jack on it. Christ is king. Get on with it. Do your job.
I don't know what Morris had for breakfast, but I feel slightly underpowered here.
You've always been very well. You're very polite and very well behaved. I think that's a noble thing about you. I don't think you should repent of it. But politics is a brutal matter. So, what's got to be? I mean, the words of the future are purging. What you'd say about the police college, Royal College of Policing, right? That's what's required, where it's defined absolutely that they are there to uphold the law. So one of the big things is our country has a fantastic ancient constitution where there are a balance of interests. There's the church in there, there's the law lords were in there until Tony Blair. Now that's a real case of it's progressive, moved it into the Supreme Court. I want that back. And what we don't want, we want the rule of law, we don't want the rule of lawyers. I mean, why on earth is it the case?
Yeah.
I think we're going to win today. I'm on a roll. Yeah, what we want is the politicians to make judgments, not the judges to make rules, to law. So why is it, I would love the Home Secretary to stand up in Parliament and say it is completely out of order for the police to be knocking on people's doors about their tweets. It's not a matter for the courts. This shouldn't be a matter for the courts. I mean, imagine, what would you say if someone walked up to you and said, with a penis, and said, I'm a woman? You'd say you're a idiot. Sorry, pardon my language. I'm getting ready for football.
Have you got the boots, Morris? They might bring you on.
And it's Aston Villa. Yid Army will ring round White Hart Lane today. I can assure you. It's going to be fantastic, actually, now I think about it.
So will Keir Starmer have to go, Morris? On May the 7th, the Welsh fiefdom has collapsed.
So what's going to happen in May? Sorry, Alison, for taking such a long journey around the house.
I enjoyed it.
No one knows what it's like being on a podcast with you.
What's going to happen in May is that we are going to righteously and rightfully get our heads kicked in, right? Now, that to me is great, because sanity must prevail.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what I was... We have absolutely lost the trust and affection that lasted for 100 years. It's the same in County Durham. Look at what happened in County Durham last year. County Durham, like South Wales, was an unbelievably sublime working class culture, right?
Yeah,
that's where they actually pioneered the mutual help. Mm-hmm. They pioneered the maternity hospitals. Labour for 100 years. And now on County Durham, Reform have got 54 seats, Labour have got 4. Right? This is death. This is what I meant about progressive things. It kills you. Now, we've lost one party, they're sunk. Honestly, Liam, you've got to get out of that stuff. It's really not good for your health, because they're going to go through the masquerade of revival every time. Oh, very good conference speech. No, it wasn't. It was just meaningless waffle. Nobody ever heard anything about it. You were in charge for 13 years and you underwrote all this stuff. You betrayed everything that conservatism... I'm so conservative that I could never be in the Conservative Party. But really, that Thatcher thing was a desecration of my people. They abandoned my people to death, and I'll never forgive it. And so what you have is, my line is, it's not original for this Planet Normal podcast, is the one Margaret Thatcher mercilessly initiated, Tony Blair immaculately consummated. This is the era of liberal globalisation. Borders, thing of the past. Working class, thing of the past. Don't you understand? I mean, people literally came up to me for years and they said, have you not heard of globalisation? They think that it's just such an obvious fact that... But now tariffs, that's the importance of Trump. Tariffs, national economic strategy, industrialisation, energy, nuclear. as well as, of course, fossil fuels and renewables. We need heat. We desperately need heat. We need to rebuild our military. So what I'm looking at in May, Alison, is that we really go then. That's the moment. You can't dispute the diagnosis. If we don't shift into where the working class are and show them love, honour and respect, we will die like the Conservatives. Now, I'm conservative. I don't want reform and a bunch of chancellors, no disrespect, Liam, but on the whole from Essex. I don't want a bunch of spivs and chancellors. I don't want them. I want conservatism. I want stable government, efficient government. And if the Conservatives die and Labour dies, it's not a glorious new morning. It's horrible. We've got to restore the institutions of our nation. The police, the army, the monarchy, Parliament above all, restore common law, fill the spaces that we've been told to fill. Brexit opens up huge possibilities for us that we haven't had for 40 years. We can have an industrial strategy. We can have a subsidised energy policy. We can accelerate nuclear. All of these things, we can actually, we've got more civil servants in the Ministry of Defence than soldiers. I have to deal with this every day. There's got to be a restoration of reason and a love of nation. And I would say it's morally correct that Spurs really beat Villa today. There's got to be a reckoning at the spiritual level.
Maurice, you're known as a political thinker, rightly so, but you're also a parliamentarian, a proud parliamentarian. You take your role in the Upper House extremely seriously. I know you're very active in the Upper House. I've seen you at work. You're constantly talking to people from all parties and none, and indeed to people, MPs as well. So let me ask you a more kind of political question here. Based on your soundings, based on your political nous and instincts, is the leader of your party going to lead that party into the next general election?
So this is called the journalist disease. Okay? However interesting the conversation, however deep and profound the analysis,
we got 3 minutes.
All they really want to talk about is who's going to be leader. This is what, honestly, you've got to get out of it. What someone like me has to look at is there an alternative? And as it stands, the only person that I love and respect in this cabinet with all my heart is Shabana Mahmood. I really think she's a miracle that has come upon us. She's really not progressive, honestly. She's severe. And I've always, not politically, but always personally loved her very much and cared for her, and I still do. But this is not her job. She's got to be the Home Secretary. She's got to stop the boats, reform the police, get out of the Human Rights Act. She has the most important job. So as it stands, I've never taken Arsenal seriously. I don't think they should really be in South London.
They were originally, down in Woolwich.
And then there'd be something. But as it is, they're masquerading as something they're not. It always catches up with you. So Keir Starmer is in many ways not a political figure. He's quite void. Good, right? So there's work to be done. There's real work to be done now. And so I just support Shabana in the work she's got to do. I actually think that John Healey is a good man at defence. He's actually understood. I mean, we're such idiots in Labour. We trusted the Conservatives on 3 things, instinctively: police, economy, and defence. And then we got in, and honestly, it's a very severe situation. And what he inherits is a complete... So I talked earlier about Planet F. Okay, so literally, military doctrine of the British Army was there will never be another land war in Europe. We're not prepared. We haven't got the arms. We haven't got the soldiers. They thought, what the hell is asymmetrical warfare? All their strategy was we're going to fight the Taliban. We're going to be in the hills of Afghanistan. There's a war in Europe. Now, our country is morally obliged to lead that, to be absolutely with Ukraine. Ukraine is also a country that has amazing industrial capacity. That's a very strong legacy of the Soviet. Ukrainians turned out had a genius for industrial invention. The space system was all in Dnipro and Yuzmarsh. They are inventing drones. I spend time, it's my favorite thing to do, in Kharkiv, which is and there's just guys, about 30, inventing new drones in their basement with a 3D printer and a bag of dynamite. The new era is not an era of innovation, it's an era of invention, new things. Rerum novarum, Pope Leo XIII, these new things. And they are our absolute ally. And London, Kiev, if we really embrace the logic of Brexit, can hold the balance against Paris, Berlin, who are both utterly colonised by progressive virus. They can't act. Germany's sleepwalking to AfD, France, well, let's face it, it's never been whole since the revolution. So
but on Planet Normal, we've campaigned. We've seen army squaddies being denied accommodation on military bases because we've let in tens of thousands of Afghans who are taking up. Where does it get off with the needs of hard-working British people to be displaced by... We've let in 35,000 illegal migrants this year. What should Labour be doing about this?
Well, what do you... of course. So first of all, is get out the ECHR, scrap the Human Rights Act, put the Royal Navy in the Channel, get the border drones. But this is just...
Morris for Prime Minister, I think. What do you think?
No, but this is, what I'm saying is not an alien thought within the government. This is a battle going on within...
Seriously? They think this, do they?
They know it. I mean, all I'm saying to you is, as far as I'm concerned, Shabana Mahmood has the hardest job in the world. She's inheriting 40 years of delusion. She's got rotting institutions. She's got people like Darren Jones floating around saying, we've got to show compassion and mercy for the women and children when men are arriving with hammers. Stop it. I really urge you all not to be vindictive, not to be hostile, not to have hate in your heart. Really pray for her, that she acts with wisdom and understanding, that she is guided by kindness and truth, and but once she starts dealing with all this, Alison, the logic of it is what's going to happen is that it's either going to be her or them. Right? And are they going to sack her?
Which takes me back, Maurice.
No, Alison, do you see the point?
Yeah, I do.
But all I say is, I met the Pope. I was invited to meet the Pope. He said a very interesting thing. I was invited by Pope Benedict, but in fact, Pope Francis had taken over. It was a very weird scene in the Vatican. It was like a new boss. I gave this talk and there was a new boss. He was all in white, wearing a couple. I felt right at home. I thought it was Yom Kippur. And I gave my Blue Labour talk. And then I had a private audience with Pope Francis. And he said, Inglaterra? He said, England. Could it be? I was saying that the future is essentially Catholic institutions, not personal autonomy, tradition. And then he said to me, pacienza, la prima virtù è pacienza. He said the first virtue is patience. And, I'm Jewish, but, he is the Pope. There's something to listen to. And I realised that this Blue Labour thing is like for 100 years. What we've got to resist is so deeply rooted in the institutions that it's not amenable to, all right, let's get it done. That's what I'm saying. So all I'm saying is the logic of the future is clear. Sovereignty, borders, order, Christ is king, honour the church, even though the church won't honour itself. All of that has to be done by us. And all I'm saying to you is, be as furious, righteously furious as you must be, and I must be, with the bullshit and the progressive lunacy. But when there are flickers of life, you have to nurture it, that's all.
Ladies and gentlemen, Baron Maurice Glasman.
Thank you, man.
Well, at least we've got a new title for the podcast. I'll just try and get it past the broadcasting officials.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, in our last half hour or so, let's welcome Tracy Edwards. Tracy was born in Pangbourne. She's the pioneering British sailor whose audacious spirit shattered gender barriers in ocean racing. Expelled from school at 15, she backpacked to Greece, where a chance job on a charter yacht ignited her passion for sailing. By 18, she'd crossed the Atlantic twice, honing her skills as a navigator despite the initial skepticism of so many of the male sailors she was with. In the mid-80s, she joined the Whitbread round-the-world race as cook on Atlantic Privateer, the first woman on a maxi yacht, proving her mettle. At 26, she assembled the world's first all-female crew for the 1989-90 Whitbread round-the-world yacht race. Mortgaging her own home, she bought and refitted the 58-foot yacht Maiden, securing sponsorship from King Hussein of Jordan, no less. Against doubters, Maiden triumphed, winning 2 grueling legs, including the toughest one of all across the treacherous Southern Ocean. Finishing second overall, she was absolutely gutted she didn't win. The best British result since 1977. Tracy Edwards became the first female yachtsman of the year. In 2014, with her yacht abandoned and derelict, she rescued and renovated Maiden via crowdfunding. In 2016, she founded the Maiden Factor, deploying the yacht as a global ambassador for girls' education, sailing to underserved communities with an all-female crew. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a woman who embodies skill, audacity, resilience, Tracy Edwards. Tracy, it's great to have you with us. I'm a massive fanboy. I've admired you so much for so long. I've told so many people to watch the brilliant documentary about you and your astonishing crew. All I'd say to you, I know you love a challenge. If you want to better Morris Glasman for a new title of our podcast...
How do I follow that?
Did you agree with him?
Absolutely, on pretty much everything.
On pretty much everything. Yeah. I know.
Let's talk about Maiden first, and then we can talk about your life now. Obviously, you are an iconic sailing figure. You're an iconic cultural figure. For many of us who were around in the late 80s, the nation was mesmerised by you and your crew. It was a very different world back in the 80s. But just take us back to Tracy Edwards backpacking around Greece, how you first felt when you were in the middle of the ocean in a Force 8 trying to cook some kind of weird stew for loads of hairy blokes who were making fun of you. What is it about ocean sailing? What is it about being in the most hostile environment on Earth that appealed to a teenage Tracy Edwards?
Well, firstly, Alison, I have to say, I didn't know you grew up in Llanelli.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in Llangennis.
Yeah.
Opposite you.
Yes,
Just round the
yeah,
corner.
I know.
Yeah.
And the Mumbles Yacht Club, where my cousin recently had her wedding reception. So when I was there, I thought Tracy's home
That's
place.
so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah, so as you said, I was expelled from school when I was 15, and my long-suffering headmaster sent home a letter to my long-suffering mother and basically just said, if this girl ever darkens the doors of the school again, we will have her arrested. So my very brave mother, who was the most extraordinary woman in my entire life, who is my inspiration and gives me the courage that I have, she said to me, right, darling, education's not for everyone. She said, I think what you would really be really good at is travel. Long distance travel. So she gave me 50 quid and off I went backpacking down to Greece. Ended up working in a bar, age of 16. Some random guy comes in and says, would you like to be a stewardess on a luxury motor yacht, forgetting all my mother's warnings of never take jobs from strange men in bars. I said, yeah, I don't know what else I'm going to do. I've got my qualifications. So I got on my first boat. And for me, it wasn't initially the ocean. It wasn't I've fallen in love with this, magical. It was the people. I found my tribe.
Yeah.
And I realised I'd spent the first 17 years of my life on the outside looking in. And here I was with a group of people that wanted to include me. And they were ragamuffins and pirates, and we were all quite disenfranchised, I think. And I just took to it like a duck to water, excuse the pun.
Yeah.
And so I had a number of amazing skippers, really incredible men, all men skippers in those days. There was not a woman skipper to be found. But they were all amazing mentors. And that's
Wow.
where I got the power of mentorship from, and with some of the stuff that we do now. And every single one of them encouraged me to the next level, because I thought I was useless at everything, because I had been useless at everything. And on my second transatlantic, my skipper said to me, "Can you navigate?" And I said, "Of course I can't navigate. I was expelled before long division." I mean, so he said, "I'll teach you to navigate in 2 days." And I went, "Oh, well, why would you do that?" He said, "Because you've got to stop being a bystander in your own life." I thought, blimey,
Wow.
that's a bit profound for 2 days into the Atlantic, but okay. And in 2 days, he taught me to navigate, and I found my passion. That was my thing, and I've never got over being able to navigate. And that was in the days, as you said, of pencils and charts and sextants and a book of tables. And with that, I could find out wherever I was in the world. It was like magic. And I felt like writing to my maths teacher and going,
For listeners, Tracy just made a rather rude sign with her middle finger.
Sounds like Tracy and I had the same maths teacher. Ours was basically the PE teacher who came in with a whistle and a pair of shorts, which was... I no wonder some of us never learned the mysteries of the logbook. What the hell was going on in there?
But I never got over it. I navigated across the Atlantic, and still today, I mean, not today, I'm not sailing anymore, but even, with Maiden, I never got over the thrill of sailing dead into the centre of a harbour and going, "I did that. I did that." Crew used to be very embarrassed as I'd be going around going, "Ha ha, I did that." They're like, "Yeah, you're the navigator. We really, hope you can do that." That's kind of the whole point. And then, I got onto Atlantic Privateer as a cook. I was on a boat with my boyfriend at the time, and I opened a book. It was called Cape Horn to Port. And I saw a picture of him, and I went, "That's you. What's the Whitbread?" He went, "The Whitbread round the world race. It's an absolute amazing thing," he said, "but girls don't do it." So he was an ex-boyfriend very quickly. And I went and got a job as a cook on Atlantic Privateer, and that changed the trajectory of my life. I just fell in love with this challenge, and that is when I fell in love with sailing. It wasn't just the people, it was the elements. It's the pure feeling of being part of nature, being part of the environment, what's going on. And it's you, and it's your wits and your strengths and your teamwork and strengths. It's a very potent mix of things, and I did become totally addicted. And then I raced around the world 3 times, and of course the second time was with Maiden. Yeah.
Tracy, I was looking that in 1989, so you did decide to assemble this all-female crew, which was no mean feat, and trying to get sponsorship and so on. And I did particularly like this quote, which came from Grant Dalton, a New Zealander sailor who is now the chief executive of New Zealand's America's Cup team. And Mr. Dalton said, I can't do the accent, sadly, "If those chicks beat me, I'll put a pineapple up my arse and run up Queen Street in Auckland naked." Did Mr. Dalton ever have the rendezvous with the pineapple that he so
and every
richly
time
deserved?
I see him, I go, "Grant, pineapple? Are we any nearer seeing that spectacle?"
So it was a very... Chauvinist isn't quite the right, I don't know what it is, but it was an intensely masculine activity.
Oh, yeah.
I was interested that you said you didn't regard yourself as a feminist at the beginning, but kind of by the end you did. So what was that? What was that progression? I mean, did you suddenly think, my God, all the men didn't want you to... Not only did they not think you should be allowed, they didn't want you to succeed, did they?
No. Well, I think... So when I was on chartered boats, you don't see a lot of misogyny, really, because it's a weird sort of nuclear family, You have the skipper as the man, the cook is the, the mum, and then you've got the deckhand and the stewardess. So it's like a family. It's, so there's no sense that you're not doing what you want to do. And had been encouraged, and I'd had great male skippers. It wasn't until I got into the world of sailing, I went, "Ooh, okay, this is a different beast, and I am not welcome here." And
Competitive sailing as opposed to tourists.
Exactly, competitive around the world sailing. And getting onto Atlantic Privateer was really hard. They did not want a female cook. And one of them said to me, "We don't want to be the only boat with a girl on board. What are you doing to us?" I mean, I did feel sorry for them for a couple of seconds.
That long?
And then I barged my way onto the boat. Even then, I probably wouldn't have called myself a feminist. I mean, my mother was a women's libber, even though she probably wouldn't have called herself a women's libber. My grandmother, who was a fifer and, trained as a nurse in Dundee, which is rather relevant to what's happening at the moment.
Yes.
She wouldn't have called herself a suffragette, but to all intents and purposes, she was. And it wasn't really until we had won the second leg, we'd been through the Southern Ocean, we'd won that leg. By 38 hours, we beat our nearest rival by 38 hours.
Very good, very good.
Tracy, just for non-sailors, just give us a couple of sentences on what the Southern Ocean is, what it means, the only place in the world where the water goes all the way around uninterrupted by land, the size, the scale of the waves, the challenge.
Yeah, so you're basically sailing around the bottom of the world, Southern Ocean. As a navigator, you're juggling between being too far south, which puts you over the Antarctic shelf, which makes the 50-foot waves like that rather than like that.
But it's shorter.
Yeah. So you've got 80-knot winds, you've got icebergs, 30 degrees below freezing. You're trying to eat 5,000 calories a day of freeze-dried food, which is horrible stuff. And just to keep going. You lose a lot of weight, so pain and cold is a really good way to lose weight, just in case anyone fancies Weight Watchers in the Southern Ocean. And it is about this endurance. It is testing yourself to the limit. And what you find is that all humans, we're all capable of more than we think we are. Just when you think, I can't get out of my bunk, put on my foul weather gear, and you do. Because your team members next to you are doing exactly the same thing.
And you took a really ballsy southerly route.
We did. There's a bit in the film.
How long were you down there?
So it was 7 weeks, that leg, which is actually the longest leg of the Whitbread ever. It's never, because we couldn't go to South Africa because of the sanctions, because of apartheid, quite rightly. So it meant that we had to go a longer route. And when we won coming into Australia, I mean, Alison, you say this well, it's hard to, comprehend how impossible everyone thought this was. They really thought we were going to die. Yeah. So when we got in, there was like, oh my God, they're alive. And they've won this leg. They've beaten all these other male boats. And jaws literally hit the floor. But even though I think the sailors were starting to take us a bit more seriously and a bit more, that's pretty good, girlies. Still got called girlies, and tarts and
tarts in a tin.
Tarts
I think the Guardian yachting
tin full of tarts.
Tin full of tarts.
Tin full of tarts.
Was how he described you.
Well, he did change though, because when we were coming into New Zealand, he did say they're not just a tin full of tarts; they're a tin full of smart, fast tarts. I loved it. I went, yeah, that's great, So we were getting respect, but the journalists, sort of were still, took them a long time to come around. Yachting journalists, very entrenched, very male, and still talking about Nelson, for God's sake. So when we won the next leg coming into New Zealand, we really thought, now we've proved it. We've really done the long, hard leg and the short, tactical leg. We've proved our worth. And we were still getting, so one of the first questions we had, so the men were getting questions like, what tactics did you do? That was a ballsy move. Why did you do it? The first question we were asked, do all women menstruate at the same time on a boat?
Yeah.
And you just think, are you kidding? I learned how to answer that question. Someone said to me, so it's when we were all menstruating on the boat together that we decided to change sails and tactics, and then we decided to, and that's the way I had to talk about what we were doing. Crazy. But it was at that point I thought, you know what? And you can see me in the press conference in the footage if you've watched it. I'm looking. What I'm thinking is, I think I am a feminist.
I think I am a feminist.
I think I'm a big, fat feminist. I think I'm the biggest feminist ever. And the rest was history.
Yeah.
As you may know, certainly as Planet Normal listeners know, we were pretty much the first mainstream platform to talk to another incredible sporting icon whose feats can move me to tears, Sharon Davis.
Yeah.
And since Sharon began to speak out, and Martina Navratilova began to speak out, and many other absolutely world-class sporting legends, I do think the debate has shifted. And most sports now, though there are some ridiculous holdouts,
35 holdouts
have changed their rules to reflect
to ban biological
realities. Tracy, you've been part of this debate. How's it felt to be part of this debate? And tell us the story, because it really shocked me to the core. Tell us the story of when a musical was made about your legendary exploits and your legendary crew.
Yeah, so I want to say something before I forget and start on that. Sharon Davis and I are going to be announcing a new initiative in the next few couple of weeks where we will be holding some feet to some fires.
Very good.
Yeah, we've had enough, and our worst fear is that when we start, we're a bit worried we're going to be called Trace and Shaz. Which is what we were called when we were in the years we were picking up all the sports awards. Trace and Chaz. You're right, Trace and Chaz. Our parents have a lot to answer.
Just leave it, Trace. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it. So the musical, yeah. So I didn't know any of this stuff was going on until 2019. And obviously I've learned a lot, since then. So Maiden was up for an Oscar. And so I was sitting at home one night, and this woman from the media company in LA, she called me up, Tracy. She said, you really cannot talk about trans rights on Twitter. And I didn't know what trans rights were. And I went, what? So she went, you follow this woman, Sharon Davis. I went, oh, yeah, I love Sharon. Yeah, She went, you can't. So they said to me, you've got to stop following all the Twitter accounts that you follow. If you want a movie about women's rights to win an Oscar, you have to stop talking about women's rights. I went, okay. So I did. I behaved myself. We didn't get the bloody Oscar. And then I followed everyone back. But that was the thing that made me go, so what is this thing going on? So thank you to her for that. And then obviously I sort of started learning more and more. I couldn't speak out for a very long time because Maiden employed 22 people. So if I lost funding, I couldn't, and cancellation was rife, and I watched what Sharon was going through, and, we talked a lot during what she was put through, which was beyond shocking. Yeah. But I couldn't be responsible for losing 22 people's jobs. But at the end, when Maiden retired in April last year, I hit the ground running. And I found my new tribe of women. I joined the Women's Rights Network and, started becoming very active. But the Maiden musical was a shocker. So when it was first produced, I didn't know it was being done. Someone just made a musical. I was a bit miffed that someone had made an entire musical without talking to me about it. Yeah. In the end, I thought it was very good. And I had heard via my agent that 2 production crew had resigned because they felt offended by what I was saying on Twitter about women's rights. And but at least they resigned. You have to have respect.
Yeah,
they put their hands and went, I don't agree, and they resigned. What I don't have respect for is the girls who also didn't agree with me, who carried on in the music. And I didn't really know about them until I was told by the producer, if you come to the gala night, and I'd got 12 ex-Maiden people to come, which is no mean feat. We're all spread around all over the world.
A massive favour for their production that only you could have done.
It was a favour.
Priceless for them.
Yeah. He called me up and he said, Tracy, some of the cast members are going to turn their backs on you when you go to the party. And I'm sorry, I couldn't cry talking about it now. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to talk to everyone else about this because now this affects all of us and it's a bit... So we decided not to go. So we didn't go to gala night. But then I was going with 20 other women, some from Women's Rights Network and some normies, some friends of mine who don't really understand what's going on. They do now. Yeah. And we were going a week later. We'd all bought our tickets. We were going as members of the audience and we loved it. And we cheered and we cried and we laughed and it was brilliant. And then right at the end, the girls came back on stage. None of the grown-ups, sort of the men and women who played my mum and King Hussein and everyone else. But the girls came back on stage. And they said that in the interests of kindness and inclusion, God, those words now inspire fear into my heart. I used to love those words, now I hate them. We're going to be raising money for the LGBTQ++++++ sports thing. And I just didn't know. I was so shocked. It was such a dig at me. A woman behind me was filming because she thought they were going to give me flowers. Yeah,
this lady here, apparently.
This lady here was filming, because she thought they were going to...
capture the moment of Tracy being honoured.
I've known
about the gala cancellation. I thought fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally undermined.
Just for the
But-
recording, a lady from the front of the audience that won't have been caught by the recording, with respect, she said that she wanted to capture the moment of Tracy, absolutely in her pomp and her prime. This was a celebration of what she had achieved, and so that's why you came to film her. Carry on, Tracy, please.
Yeah, but then the upside of that, and what is so great about women, I mean, there are so many great things about women. So many. Present company excluded. Oh, sorry.
He's honorary.
Honorary woman. I kind of thought you might be. Was that the backlash after there was an excellent article in the Telegraph, thank you very much for that, and Oliver Brown, who's been absolutely fantastic, stalwart of women's rights.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. And the Telegraph, the arts writer as well, absolutely brilliant. So the article that came out was, I thought, actually really excellent. And you know how women protest, how they protested that? We didn't put on masks and go and scream at people or terrorise people or shout or yell. Women donated to my charity. That's how they protested.
Oh, brilliant.
So within about 3 weeks, we'd raised just under £20,000
Brilliant.
for my charity. And we've now funded 3 underground schools in Afghanistan for a year. So thanks, girls, for the little
Amazing.
protest.
And it was deliberate, as Oliver Brown's excellent article made clear. We'll put the link in the show notes to this episode for people listening after the event.
It was surreal.
I wanted to ask you about that specifically. So there's this young musical actress there, hands shaking, actually, rightly so. She should have been hands shaking, giving this speech in support of Pride Sports, a charity that lobbies for biological men to take part in female competition. Do these younger women, I mean, you're wearing today the suffragette colours, every woman in this audience know I wrote a book about a woman in the city, and she has a line about every pavement we walk on the bones of those women who came before us.
We do.
And even if we don't know their names, we know they are there. We walk on their shoulders, don't we?
Yeah.
Every achievement we have. Do those younger women making that really juvenile protest at what should have been a lovely evening, do they have no sense at all that the story, your story, that they were starring in was entirely about women having to assert their right to have equal rights within an entirely male environment? Is irony dead, Tracy?
It is, actually. Irony is long gone. It left the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't they get it?
I don't understand the disconnect. I don't understand why so many young women don't understand. You're right, we stand on the shoulders of giants, of those who came before us.
We really do.
Opposite the Battle Fest, there's a plaque for the suffragettes, which I noticed the other day.
Yeah.
They'd be turning in their graves.
They would be, wouldn't they?
And, I wasn't angry. I was disappointed and upset more than anything else that they hadn't made the connection. But I think also there's huge peer pressure. There is, and actually one woman on Twitter named one of them, and I messaged her and I said, could you please take her name down? She's young, she's stupid, she's made a mistake, and I don't want her being piled on. No. I'd rather her learn and, sort of eventually come round, hopefully, to what I would call the sanity. But no, and the arts is even more captured than sport, the huge peer pressure. And it is, I don't understand when... it's this indoctrination. I spend a lot of my time saying, I don't understand. That's what I say most. Why? Why? But peer pressure, yes, obviously. What disappoints me, I think, more than anything else, are the women who know this is wrong, who know... and who go along with this ridiculousness, this insanity that, as you say, or as Morris quite rightly say, that, a man with a penis can be a woman.
As you've made the observation, in a way, as with a lot of this nonsense in the various areas we're talking about, once it was in sport, we had that spectacle of that American college swimmer, didn't we? Leah Thomas.
Leah Thomas.
Leah Thomas, 6'3", arms like sort of canoe paddles, with the women who should have won the with the package, disported in the women's changing rooms, and then flanked on the silver and bronze medal positions by women who obviously should have won the thing. I mean, to some extent, the arrogant shamelessness of that is quite useful, isn't it?
Oh, Operation Let Them Speak is going very well at the moment.
I mean, really...
I think a new turf is born every day. The peaking is going on all over the place. Some really interesting statistics coming out about a huge dip in trans children. Of course, there's no such thing, but
yes. I was going to ask you about. This week, American research is suggesting that they're seeing a marked decrease in what many of us see as a cult. Basically.
It's social contagion. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Huge peer pressure young people are under at school. So glad my daughter is out of it, and she's now grown up and left home. But no, sorry, what was the question? Sorry, I'm off on a tangent. Don't talk to me about this. I'm off on a tangent.
She's left home. Did you say, darling, I think travel would be very, very good for you a long way away?
No. No, she got engaged.
Please go as far away as possible. No, it was more that young generation of women, not coming to that realization of what you and the Maiden crew had to put up with. And it's like, oh, it's fine if it's blokes there, but you actually had to fight tooth and nail, didn't you, to have an all-female and to have women respected as sailors. And now this is being unpicked by...
And so much
just clueless, or just...
So much is being unpicked, isn't it? So many of the rights that we fought so hard for. And when I find, I wouldn't say mystifying, a little bit maybe, women created our own single-sex spaces. We fought for, we had the urinary leash at one point. Women couldn't go out because there were no female toilets. That was one of the things the suffragettes fought tooth and nail for. So we have these freedoms, we have these rights because we fought for them. We created them as women. So if trans people want rights, create your rights. Stop bloody well taking ours.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time. We'll have to do Bob the Bard another week. Alison and I will have to sing it on our own back at Telegraph Towers. It's a brilliant song. It's called What Will They Do in the Autumn Budget, sung to the tune of What Shall They Do with the Drunken Sailor? but we are out of time, so unfortunately... we can't have Tracy Edwards singing that song.
You should be very thankful.
It would be so apt.
Might get her to do it.
And on that bombshell, that is it from Planet Normal for another week as we leave our sanctuary of sweet reason, our flying refuge of reasoned views.
Thank you for joining us at the Battle of Ideas. Thank you to listeners everywhere. If you've enjoyed this episode of Planet Normal, now rechristened Planet F by Baron Glasman. Anyway, two amazing guests. We couldn't have had better guests. Please do subscribe to us and leave a review or rating wherever you can.
And finally, thanks to our producers, Cass Ho, James Hodgson, Louise Wells. Thanks to the brilliant team here at the Battle of Ideas. Stay safe and in touch with us and with each other. Until next week, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Goodbye.